It's 22 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria. President Muhammad Buhari signed into law the bill to get to recognize June 12 officially as Democracy Day in Nigeria. Now, to discuss Nigeria's democracy 22 years after 1999 is none other but one of the finest professors of political economy in the African continent, Professor Pat Utomi. So let's talk about Nigeria's democracy 22 years after.
First of all, it's over a period and it's been going one way or the other, so you can rate the whole period. That's one. Two, a conversation around what the issues are probably serves better than a score that can be emotive one way or the other. So if you wanted to take some objective measures, now just as democracy was getting going, scholars from a number of universities in the United States of America and Africa, that time primarily out of Michigan State, founded the Afrobarometer. The Afrobarometer is an instrument that measures, and it's done that in time intervals since about 1999 or 98, disposition of citizens towards democracy, how well they feel it's working, what the challenges are, and so on and so forth. Just before Nigeria's return to democracy, the Afrobarometer measure was one that showed that Nigerians were exhilarated about the possibilities of returning to democracy. They were very excited. They were yearning for, looking forward to democracy. I've checked more late Afrobarometer scores. Nigerians are more or less fed up with the democracy.
So I was just going to ask you, now because of the history of Nigeria, one would say that 22 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria is something to be celebrated. But for some people, it's not about the length of the years, but about the quality of the democracy. Do you think along those lines?
You do things, especially if you do them right, you would develop habits of doing them right. Unfortunately for us, we have not quite done many things right. So to use the typical measure of democracy to judge that would be problematic. However, quality matters. Quality does indeed matter because it is what disposes people to being welcoming of the process. And because the process has not quite gone right. We play these games with electoral process reform. We will start the process and the National Assembly will keep playing these games until it will run over and the elections will take place because they are not interested in free and fair elections. The National Assembly is not. I can prove it to them if they want me, that they're not interested in free and fair elections because most of them were not elected anyway. They just finagled the system and got there. But that kind of thing does not go on forever. It gets to a point and the whole system collapses, it implodes, which is what we are beginning to go through, unfortunately. We need to have, why do people appear desperate for power if they are really just going to give service? We have managed, sadly, to allow money to be easy to make from politics. No society should get there. Politics should lead people into a pursuit of immortality. If I got there, I may be a poor man. And usually, good politicians never get rich. I may be a poor man the rest of my life, but they will remember my name. It's like the song Fame, light up the skies like a flame.
Do you think we have that in Nigeria?
Of course, there are people who feel like that about politics, but they see what is there and they say, I can't. Because precisely the point is that if your objective is to serve people, yes, it's a huge incentive to see yourself light up the skies like a flame, to see immortality as part of what you've lived. But that incentive, I'm not sure is worth your killing other people, your being a brigand and breaking every law, which is what many who want these positions seem to do. So they get to power, and they want different kind of return than immortality. And that's what the problem of Nigeria has been.
So now Nigeria is 61 years. And on a day like this, we remember people like Moshood Abiola and what June 12th election actually held, the promise that June 12th election actually held for Nigeria. Where did we deviate from what we had or what we were going to have, in 1993?
Look, I was very active in the 1993 thing, from the campaign itself, helping to define the national agenda. And then ultimately, when the elections were annulled, I was part of a group of people that said, it's not acceptable. It cannot happen like this. And so we got involved in what is now famously the June 12 struggle. But I mean, what has happened in the end? I mean, people who were hiding in all kinds of places have come now and claimed June 12 because Nigeria does not teach history, Nigeria does not respect truth. So it was politically convenient to claim June 12 afterwards. So they've claimed it. That's not so much the problem. The problem is that when the work of a number of people, I would dare say including myself, then finally made power inconvenient for the military, and they decided to leave, the traditional politicians, the people who went into this for immortality, who followed Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Michael Okpara, Madu Bello, and these people thought, I'm not sure the military are sincere, we're not sure they're going to go away really, they'll just go and come back in 1 year. Let's not mess ourselves up. They opened up a complete vacuum. Most of the fellows, not all of course, there were some good people there. Most of the people who entered the process were, permit the not too nice a word, scoundrels. They were bagmen for soldiers. And they walked in and seized the space. And then Nigeria was punished for that by the fact that oil prices, which were in single digits in Abacha's in 1998, went to triple digits. And so they ganacheed the Commonwealth and put in their pocket and used it to make money the entry barrier into public life. Nigeria has not recovered from it. So politics has all been about money, cheating, all kinds of abuses in the name of reaching power, to use power in this corrupted process of state capture to feather one's nests. So the Nigerian people, rightly, are completely disgusted with the political process. They don't know, if it serves them. But why do you think people take 1,000 naira and vote away their patrimony? It's because they are convinced that it doesn't matter what happens, they don't have a voice. So if it is just this 1,000 naira I get from these scoundrels, let it at least be the bit that I got. And that's why they do it. They're not stupid. The market woman is much smarter than the politician. I can tell you that. I dealt with them. They're much smarter. But they've seen the way things are against them. So they choose, 1,000 naira, at least that's something. They can do what they like. One day God will catch them. That's the way they think, Now,
talking about market women, this takes us back to the news about Nigeria being the poverty capital of the world. The Nigeria Bureau of Statistics had released some data between 2018 and 2019, saying that about 40% of Nigerians live below the poverty line. Now that's over 82 million Nigerians living below the poverty line already. Now, what has led us here? For a country as blessed as Nigeria is, what have we done wrong, and what do we continue to do wrong?
It's a very really important question, because there are many people who don't seem quite yet to still understand what went wrong. China was a terribly, terribly poor country. Under Mao Zedong, they ate politics, smelled politics, but they were miserable. Nigeria's GDP per capita was more than twice that of China. Then Mao died, and Deng appeared. Deng Xiaoping, in the series of talks that he gave in 1978, talked about where China went wrong, and that the biggest error in China, which the Cultural Revolution and the Mao era emphasized, was a negation of the power and the role of intellect, of knowledge in transforming society. If you look at Nigeria's political class, they're exactly like Mao in a different way. Mao was a kind of ascetic fellow who denigrated knowledge. At least people around him did. Nigerian political class are not ascetic. They are, what do you call people who are reckless, showmen, stealing, doing all kinds of things. But like the team around Mao, they denigrated intellect. They denigrated knowledge. You bring up an idea, they say, my grandma will go chop, and stuff like that. So Nigerian political class is an anti-intellectual class. Today's Nigerian political class, which is exactly the opposite of the political class of the 50s. If you saw Chivagolo, saw any of those politicians, they were surrounded by professors. Yes. But you see today's Nigerian politicians, they're surrounded by, well, let me be nice, pimps, basically. So they don't think, they don't like people who think. They feel threatened by people who think. When Deng took over and began to preach, you can listen to the speeches he made on December 13th, 1978, December 18th, 1978, a number of those speeches. The focus was our party must recognize the place of intellect and thought and bring it to the center of how we move forward. It's not a coincidence, or it's not a mistake that today China's GDP, which was half of Nigeria's, is about 30 times that of Nigeria in one generation, literally. So what has gone wrong in Nigeria is that the people who moved in 1998 were fundamentally anti-intellectual and not thinking people. And so Nigeria's whole essence became share the gala, share the booze. It was not, hey, how can we build tomorrow for our children? Which is the way thinking people tend to act. And the result has come home to roost.
Now, we can't continue this conversation without talking about Nigeria's insecurity. We've had several conversations about insecurity in the country with several people from different zones of the country saying, let there be restructuring. It's either restructuring or outright secession. What are your thoughts on the ever increasing insecurity situation that Nigeria has found itself in 22 years after democracy?
It's a shame because it should not have come. But even bigger, a shame because it gave notice. So I first began to say 20 years ago, be careful lest we travel the road to Somalia. Be careful lest we go down the Congo River. The example of DRC The example of Somalia, tragically, define the failing of endowed countries.
As it stands now, Prof, what do we need to do immediately to begin to address the issue of insecurity in the country?
Yeah, very simple. We'll change the laws, get more. Let's tell the community, look, you organize yourself, whether it's your old vigilante ways, as a first step in building community policing.
Are you advocating for community policing?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always advocated it.
Country?
Yes, always advocated it. It's good for everybody. It's good everywhere. Nigerian police force actually accepts it, but we're going about it in funny ways.
Do you not share the worry that that could be hijacked by politicians? I mean, we see
I've just told you.
Western part of Nigeria. Sure. We see the embargo in the eastern part of Nigeria.
Yeah, I've just told you that there are checks and balances in these things. I'll give you an American example. If it is going to be a human rights issue, then a federal policing system moves in, so as to assure people that no matter where they are in the country, their fundamental rights are protected. So there's so many checks and balances that you can have in these things. Is the federal police not used to abuse people's rights? Just a matter of ensuring that you balance these things.
Okay, so we've had several elections since 1999 in the country, but the 2023 election seems to be very pivotal to Nigeria's political future as at today. What do you think about the 2023 elections?
Well, I think that there are some fundamental issues that need to be taken care of before those elections. If we don't take care of electoral process reform to ensure that people's votes really count, we don't bring in electronic voting methods and such other things. If we don't begin to deal with the fundamental structure of a federation, providing more local autonomy, the principle of subsidiarity, then you're going to end up just making things worse than they are today. And so I'm not one of those who say elections shouldn't take place in 2020. I'm saying before 2023, let's have some reforms. It is possible we can have them. And then the elections will be worth the trouble. But if we don't do these things, elections are a waste of time. They're just an accumulation on the path of a failing state.
Okay, so as we look ahead into Nigeria's democratic future, what are the things we need to do to show up, to show up the democratic future of the country?
Well, first of all, we've got to educate people. We've got to get young people who are not carrying animosities from 50 years ago to get more into positions of public authority. It's a shame that the demographics of Nigeria suggest that probably 70% of our population are under 35 or whatever. And yet, most of the people who are making these decisions are in their 70s. That is not democratic to start with. And so we need more, if you will, inclusion in the system. We need more women. Look at how remarkably well Rwanda has done in that regard. I'd like to see the National Assembly with 50% women. I'd like to see the cabinet have more women, even though I'd like to trim the size of both the cabinet and the National Assembly. So my schoolmate, Rotimi Akeredolu, who's governor in Ondo, suggesting that we should scrap the Senate and significantly slash the House of Reps, completely and fully endorse those ideas. I think the size of government is far too big in this country. And I think that we could use more prudent, more thinking people in public life.
All right, so I just want to say thank you so much, Professor Pat Utomi, for sharing your thoughts with us on Nigeria's Democracy Day. I'm just going to have you wish Nigerians a happy Democracy Day.
Well, happy Democracy Day, Nigerians. Let's make it truly a democracy.
And this is from me to you saying, have yourself a beautiful, beautiful Democracy Day from all Nigerians watching from the diaspora and watching within the country and in different parts of Africa.